This time, Alex Eala does not need anyone to hand her an opportunity. No wild card, no exhausting qualifying rounds, and no special invitation. She has officially earned direct entry into Washington's star-studded WTA 500 tournament. And although that may look like a small detail on an entry list, it represents one of the biggest transformations of her career. Just 16 months ago, Eala was only 19 years old, ranked number 140 in the world, and needed a wild card simply to compete at the Miami Open. She had already shown tremendous promise as a junior, but she was still fighting for access to the biggest stages in professional tennis. Now she returns to the United States as a completely different player. Her ranking has secured her place directly in the main draw. In Miami, somebody had to open the door for her. In Washington, her own results have kicked that door wide open. Since her breakthrough in Miami, Eala has climbed into the top 50, reached the first WTA Tour singles final of her career, captured multiple WTA 125 titles, beaten top-ranked opponents on different surfaces, and recorded the deepest Grand Slam singles run ever achieved by a Filipina. Her unforgettable Wimbledon 2026 campaign raised her profile even further. She stunned defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court, advanced to the fourth round, and left London as a proven top 40 player and one of the brightest young stars on the WTA Tour. That is why Washington feels so different. Alex Eala is no longer arriving as an unknown teenager, hoping one magical tournament will change her life. She is arriving as a player the entire field recognizes, respects, and prepares for. Opponents are no longer overlooking her. They are studying her movement, her return position, her left-handed patterns, and the way she handles pressure. Fans no longer see her name in the draw and wonder who she is. They expect to see her competing on the biggest courts in the world. Miami may have introduced Alex Eala to the global tennis audience, but everything she has accomplished since then has made one thing perfectly clear. She is here to stay. A wild card can provide a valuable opportunity for a young prospect, a former champion attempting a comeback, or a popular local player whose ranking is not high enough for automatic entry. Miami proved how powerful that opportunity can be. Direct entry, however, carries a much deeper meaning. It means the ranking system has already decided that the player belongs. A tournament director no longer has to determine whether she deserves a chance, because her results have answered the question. For years, Eala existed in that difficult space, between potential and proof. Tennis insiders knew exactly who she was. She had won the US Open girls singles title, developed her game at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, and established herself as one of the greatest tennis prospects ever produced by the Philippines. But professional tennis does not reward potential forever. It rewards victories, ranking points, and consistent results. Before Miami, Eala was still battling to enter the tournaments offering the biggest prize money, the most valuable ranking points, and the opportunity to face elite opponents. That is one of the harshest realities of professional tennis. Higher-ranked players receive direct entry into major events, while players outside the cutoff often travel around the world just to compete in several elimination matches before the main draw even begins. Qualifying can take a huge physical and emotional toll. Some players finally reach the main draw already exhausted, while others see their tournament end before most fans even realize they were there. Eala experienced that struggle firsthand at Wimbledon in 2024. She fought through 2 qualifying victories and came within 1 win of reaching her first main draw, only to lose to Lulu Sun in the final qualifying round. It was heartbreaking, but it also showed how close she was to breaking through. Instead of letting that disappointment define her, Eala used it as fuel. She kept training, kept traveling, and kept entering tournaments where every match carried major consequences. There was no guarantee that one breakthrough week would change everything, but she believed that consistent work would eventually pay off. Then Miami happened. Eala entered the 2025 Miami Open as a wildcard ranked number 140 in the world. Most fans saw her as a talented young player, receiving valuable experience, while the attention remained focused on the sport's biggest stars. Instead, she became the tournament's biggest surprise. She began her incredible run by defeating former Grand Slam champion Jelena Ostapenko, whose explosive power has overwhelmed some of the best players on tour. One upset could have been dismissed as a perfect day or a favorable matchup, but Eala immediately proved it was much more than that. She followed it by defeating Madison Keys, another Grand Slam champion and one of the most dangerous hard-court players in women's tennis. At that point, the story had changed. This was no longer an inexperienced teenager enjoying a lucky moment. This was a genuine breakthrough. Then came the biggest challenge of all. World number 1, Iga Swiatek. Swiatek had the trophies, consistency, movement, and championship mentality that had defined an era of women's tennis. Eala entered with almost nothing to lose, but she did not play like someone who was simply grateful to share the court. She defended fearlessly, attacked whenever an opening appeared, absorbed Swiatek's pressure with remarkable composure, and refused to let the reputation across the net control her decisions. Playing with confidence far beyond her years, Eala stunned the tennis world by winning in straight sets. In one unforgettable tournament, a 19-year-old wildcard from the Philippines defeated 3 Grand Slam champions and reached the semifinals of a WTA 1000 event. The entire tennis world was forced to recognize that a new star had arrived. Yet the greatest reward was not the headlines or international attention, it was the ranking. Eala jumped 65 places, climbing from number 140 to number 75, and becoming the first Filipina in history to enter the WTA Top 100. That ranking changed the course of her career. Before Miami, her schedule depended on qualifying draws, wildcards, and hoping an opportunity would appear. After Miami, those opportunities became something she had earned. More main draw spots opened up, giving her the freedom to choose tournaments based on long-term development rather than constantly fighting for access. She could prepare more carefully, recover properly between events, and build a structured schedule instead of chasing one opening after another. Miami also created a new question. Could she maintain that level once the element of surprise disappeared? Tennis history is filled with players who enjoyed one unforgettable breakthrough and then struggled to repeat it. The WTA Tour adjusts quickly, coaches analyze footage, opponents study patterns, and weaknesses are targeted almost immediately. After Miami, everybody knew what Eala could do. They understood how her left-handed game disrupted rhythm, how effectively she absorbed pace, and how calmly she competed against major champions. She did not suddenly become unbeatable. Eala experienced difficult losses, physical challenges, and matches against experienced opponents who exposed areas that still needed improvement. That was a natural part of her development. What mattered was that she kept moving forward. At Eastbourne, she battled through qualifying and reached the first WTA Tour singles final of her career, becoming the first Filipina ever to reach a final at that level. She later captured a WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, added another trophy to her resume, and eventually became the first Filipina to break into the WTA Top 50. Miami was no one-week miracle. It was the beginning of a legitimate rise. The 2026 grass court season provided even more proof. Eala won another WTA 125 title in Birmingham and carried that momentum into Berlin, where she faced world number 2 Elena Rybakina, the former Wimbledon champion known for one of the most powerful serves in women's tennis. Eala delivered another statement performance, defeating Rybakina in straight sets. She returned the next day and beat another top 10 star, Elena Svitolina, to reach the semifinals. Those victories showed that her success was no longer limited to Miami or one specific surface. Eala was proving that she could compete with and defeat the world's best wherever they met. More importantly, she was doing it when the entire WTA Tour already knew her name. The elite players understood the threat she presented, prepared specifically for her game, and still could not always stop her. Then came Wimbledon 2026, the tournament that transformed her rapid rise into history. Eala arrived in London as a seeded player, a dramatic contrast to 2024, when she had been forced to fight through qualifying. She won her opening match, survived a difficult second round, and stepped onto center court for the biggest test of her career, a rematch against defending champion Iga Swiatek. Their meeting carried enormous significance because it revisited the match that had first announced Eala to the world in Miami. This time, however, everything was different. In Miami, Eala had been an unknown wildcard with nothing to lose. At Wimbledon, Swiatek knew exactly what to expect. The crowd recognized Eala's name, the media viewed her as a legitimate contender, and nobody believed her first victory had been a fluke. The pressure was greater than ever. This was center court at Wimbledon, the sport's most iconic stage, against the defending champion, with millions watching around the world. Yet Eala responded with the same fearless confidence that had defined her breakthrough. She fought through a tense opening set, saved crucial set points, stayed aggressive during the biggest moments, and refused to back away when the pressure intensified. Once she gained control, she never looked back. Eala defeated Swiatek in straight sets and advanced to the fourth round, becoming the first Filipina to reach the second week of a Grand Slam singles tournament. That historic run completely changed the meaning of her direct entry into Washington. A guaranteed place in the main draw of a WTA 500 event might normally look like a routine administrative detail. For Eala, it is undeniable proof of how far she has come. It proves that her ranking now reflects her true level, that her success is built on consistent performances rather than one magical week, and that the young player who once struggled simply to enter major tournaments has become one of the attractions fans are eager to watch. Washington's field is filled with Grand Slam champions, established stars, and players who have spent years competing on the sport's biggest stages. Alex Eala is not joining them because of a special invitation or because her story is inspiring. She is there because her ranking and results have earned that place. Direct entry does not guarantee success. It does not make the draw easier, protect her from a dangerous first-round opponent, or promise another deep run. It simply places her on the same starting line as everybody else. What happens next will depend entirely on her tennis, and that is where the challenge becomes even greater. For most of her career, Eala was fighting to prove she deserved access. Now she must deal with the pressure of expectation. It is easier to play freely when almost nobody expects you to win. It becomes harder when fans anticipate another upset every time you step onto the court, when opponents have studied every detail of your game, and when victories are no longer treated as miracles but expected as part of your growth. That is the real test waiting in Washington. Can she carry her Wimbledon confidence onto the hard courts of North America? Can she recover physically and mentally after the deepest Grand Slam run of her career? Can she remain aggressive as expectations continue to rise? Most importantly, can she turn historic victories into consistent success week after week? Those questions are not signs of doubt. They are proof of progress. Players only receive this much attention when they become genuine threats. The conversation has changed. People are no longer asking whether Alex Eala can compete with the world's best. They are asking how high she can climb and how much more history she can make. Washington will also test her ability to transition between surfaces. Grass rewards quick reactions, low bouncing shots, explosive first strikes, and aggressive attacking tennis. Hard courts often produce longer rallies, place greater demands on defensive movement and endurance, and give opponents more opportunities to attack second serves. Adapting successfully will be another important step in Eala's development and another opportunity to prove that she has a complete game capable of succeeding everywhere. The North American hard court swing presents a fresh challenge, but Alex Eala already knows she can thrive on this surface. Miami is where everything changed. Washington now gives her the chance to return as a stronger, more experienced, and far more confident player. She has faced the world's best, defeated multiple Grand Slam champions, handled pressure on the biggest stages, and learned what it takes to win when expectations are at their highest. Her place in Washington also represents something much bigger than one tournament. Alex Eala is changing what young athletes in the Philippines believe is possible. Every direct entry, seeded appearance, title, and victory over a Grand Slam champion expands the boundaries for the next generation. Fans in Manila follow every point with pride, while Filipino communities across the United States fill stadium sections with national flags and turn away matches into something that feels like home. People who once paid little attention to WTA rankings now study draws, entry lists, ranking points, and surface changes because they want to follow her journey. That connection cannot be manufactured through publicity. It happens when supporters truly believe they are watching history unfold. Eala has given them every reason to believe that her story is only beginning, but she also deserves the freedom to continue developing without carrying impossible expectations. At just 21 years old, she is still early in her professional career. There will be difficult losses, frustrating weeks, and opponents who expose areas she still needs to improve. That is not failure. It is part of becoming an elite athlete. Not every tournament will become another Miami, and not every match will become another Wimbledon Classic. But one thing has already changed forever. Alex Eala no longer needs a wild card to prove she belongs. Her tennis has already done that.